This video is probably going to break my brain, but I'm going to attempt it anyway. I've had quite a few people ask to compare some of the features in Cricut Design Space to the features in Silhouette Studio. For those coming over from Cricut to Silhouette, here is a video explaining how to do certain things in Silhouette Studio as compared to Design Space. Hi, I'm Brenda Lambert. I'm a TJC licensed instructor for Silhouette. You found your way to Silhouette success. Now, I am a former Cricut user. I used the Cricut for a few years. I had a lot of issues with the Design Space. It was always crashing on me. Super frustrating. So I decided that I was going to make the switch. I went over to Silhouette and never looked back until now. I have downloaded the Cricut Design Space app, and I'm going to try to cover a few of the different features and show you how to take your knowledge of Cricut Design Space and turn it into something useful in Silhouette Studio. We're going to be covering things like group and ungroup, attach, weld, contour, and maybe a few more. So stick with me. This is going to be good, I hope. I have Silhouette Studio set up to the left and Design Space set up to the right. I'm going to turn off the print border on Silhouette that's kind of in my way. The first feature we are going to talk about is group and ungroup. Let's just draw out some simple shapes. Now in both of these, you can move each shape independently. However, if we select both, we can group them together. And now they move together as one unit. And they scale together as one unit. Very similar. Now, the difference between the two is when you go to the send screen or you go to make it. In Silhouette Studio, the elements stay exactly where you place them on the mat. When you go to make, your elements are divided by color. You have the square on the blue mat and you have the circle on the green mat, and both of them have been moved to a spot where it will use the least amount of material. In order to get these to cut in the same exact spot, you would have to select both of them and attach. That turns both of the elements to the same color, and now they will cut out in the same spot as they were placed on the design mat. In Silhouette Studio, there is no attach feature because it does not separate by color. It just simply cuts whatever you put on the mat in the exact same spot that you place it. Next, we're going to look at the weld function. If we zoom in on Silhouette here, you can see that the cut lines are overlapping, and that's exactly what we'll cut out in the send panel. For this, you can right-click and weld. Let's group that together as well. And all of the extra cut lines have disappeared. Now, typically I would go through and fix the spacing on these letters, but I'm not going to go through all of that right now. I'm simply going to right-click and click on weld. That should work. I still see a cut line here. I'm not quite sure why. It's been a long time since I have used Design Space, but Weld should keep all of these extra cut lines out of here. If you know what's going on with that, let me know in the comments. However, Weld on the text pretty much works in the same way. Now let's take a look at the shapes. We're going to slide each of the circles over on top of the rectangle just a bit. Select both, right click and weld. This is now one element. The extra cut lines are gone. Same thing over here. perfect. So Weld does pretty much the same thing in both Silhouette Studio and Design Space. If you're used to using Weld in Cricut, you can bring it right over to Studio and be just fine with that. We're just going to keep moving with this design we have going on here. It's a little bit funky, but that's okay. The next feature a lot of people ask me about is the slice feature in Design Space. In Design Space, you can select two different elements, select Slice, and it will cut the top element out of the bottom element. Now for Silhouette Studio, you can place an element on top of another one, select both, right-click, and make a compound path. So now Silhouette will cut out of here, and Design Space will cut out of here. Slice in Design Space equals make a compound path in Silhouette Studio. The difference is that you will not end up with these extra pieces. So if you want to keep your original, you can click on the element, duplicate it, and set it down a bit, and then make your compound path. Next up, we have flatten. In Design Space, it's based on layers. So if I wanted to create a sticker out of this, I could take a rectangle, draw it out a bit. Let's send that to the back. Now we're going to select both of these and flatten. Head over to Make, and it has turned it into a print then cut file. So you can print this out and it will cut around the outside rectangle. This part will be printed. Over in Silhouette Studio, let's do the same thing, create the rectangle. Fill that in with color just because we want to keep it consistent. We can send that to the back. It's looking very similar. In Silhouette Studio, there is no flatten. What you'll want to do is select both of the elements, right-click and group. Then when you go to the Send panel, if you leave it as is, you can see that everything is going to cut. That's not what we want. So we can click on this element and select Cut Edge. And now it will cut just the outside line, and we have the same result as we got with flatten over in Design Space. Contour is another feature in Design Space that does not exist in Silhouette Studio. With Contour, you can select different pieces of the design and have them cut or not cut, and you're able to change the color of these different elements by duplicating your original design and contouring different pieces of your design. Now in Silhouette Studio, we do not have contour at all. What you will do is release the compound path. Once you have released the compound path, you can ungroup if necessary, and then select different pieces of the cut and change the color that way. One thing I want to say before I hop off here is that if I had realized that I could use Silhouette Studio with the Cricut machine at the time that I switched, I would not have ever moved over to Silhouette machines. Don't get me wrong, I love the Silhouette machines now. I am hooked, I am a lifelong user, but at the time, I wasn't really in a financial position to buy another machine, but I wasn't in a financial position to stay stuck with my orders either. So I scrapped the whole thing and moved over. If you are in the same position and you're tired of the software crashing and you just want a better option, I want you to know that you can download Silhouette Studio. Grab the business edition, design in Silhouette Studio, download your SVG and transfer it over to the Cricut software. You can use that to cut, and most of your issues should be solved because it's going to be a quick upload, cut, done. Anyway, that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Now go create something amazing, and I'll see you in the next video.